Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to this educational presentation where today I'd like to talk to you about my triple threat of trading. Now, many people are unfamiliar with this term, so let me define what a triple threat actually is. Now, it's usually associated with sports and sports teams, but it's an expert in three different skills in the same field. Now, we can just as easily apply this actually to trading. For example, here's what I'm going to share with you today. The first threat that I'll be explaining to you today actually generated a buy signal here, and you had a nice little run up. Now, the second threat generated a buy signal as well, and potentially with the both combined, you could have captured upwards of 22 points. Now, when one of these first two threats generated another signal, this is where the third threat came in, and it filtered out this bad signal, and therefore you would not have lost any money in the downtrend. So this is what we're going to be talking about today, my triple threat of trading. Three highly probable methods that when used together really form this synergy of success. The best news is that everything I'm going to be teaching you today can be easily accessed on our platform, the PET-D Primo charting platform that actually teaches you how to trade with a triple threat. So welcome once again. My name is Steven Primo. I'm the president and founder of Specialist Trading. If you're new to our webinars, we are solely about educating you as traders. It's our belief that the reason why most traders fail is because most of you, myself included, when I first started, take your trading cue from someone or something else. You're always looking for someone to tell you what to buy or sell. You're looking for some indicator or for some system to tell you what the market's going to do. And in actuality, this is a recipe for disaster because it's been estimated that 80% of all traders fail, usually in the first year. So obviously, this type of trading does not work. It's been my experience in my 45 years of trading that the only traders that are consistent are the ones that have longevity, are the ones that make their own trading decisions. So that's why I teamed up with Pro Trader Strategies and formed Specialist Trading, this educational company, I should say, so that you can be informed and taught so that you can make your own trading decisions. Once you have this education, once you have your own information to make your trading decisions, then you can leave that 80 percentile and finally become a consistent trader. So this is what the service we provide, and this is what we teach, and you'll see that attention to detail in today's educational class. Now, before we begin, once again, as always, we are required by law to share this with you. So please take a moment to view our disclaimer. I'm going to share with you a lot of performance results using this triple threat, but please remember that we can in no way guarantee that any of the results I'm about to share with you will be repeated in the future. Also, since we are an educational company, all examples are strictly for educational purposes only. Now, another way to get education on a daily basis is to follow us on Twitter. Every day I post different snapshots of signals that our strategies or techniques have generated, as well as little bits of financial wisdom. Lots of great free education on a daily basis. So please feel free to follow us on Twitter. Now remember, as I stated in the opening statements, we're a little bit different from other webinars you may have attended in that our only goal is simply to educate you. If you come here today thinking that I'm going to tell you what I think the market's going to do, or what I'm going to tell you what the perfect stock is to buy, or what the perfect time frame is to trade, remember, that's the way the entire industry is based on, and that's why most traders fail. I would be doing you a disservice if I did that. And plus, no one knows what the market's going to do. No one knows what the perfect stock is or a perfect time frame is to trade. These are things that you have to find out on your own. So as an educator, as a mentor, my goal is simply to teach you how to trade with a specialist edge. Now, when I first started trading 45 years ago on the floor of the stock exchange, these were the same edges my mentors taught me and what have sustained me now for over 4 decades. And hopefully they'll be able to do the same for you. Okay. Now, let's begin today's educational presentation. But before we begin, once again, if you have any questions, please wait till the very end to ask. I promise I'll get to each and every one of them. Also, the only question I will answer is the most common one, and that is this being recorded? Yes, it is. So if you have to leave early, if you're having technical issues, don't worry. Each and every one of you will be sent a link to this recording, okay? So kindly wait to ask questions till the very end. All right, let's begin today's educational class. Let's just jump right into it. What is threat number one of this triple threat? Well, threat number one is something I learned from my mentors and something I use on a daily basis. This is strategy number 4. In fact, it was the first strategy that my mentors taught me. And let me give you some of the highlights of this particular method. It's a pattern recognition method, meaning that we're not really relying on indicators or support and resistance or overbought, oversold. We're relying on a pattern that I teach you in the course that repeats itself over and over and over again in any market and in any time frame. Now, when I originally learned this some 4 decades ago, it was obviously designed for traders looking to identify momentum in advance and on a short-term scale, because when I was on the floor, we were in and out of trades in sometimes less than a minute. But now we've developed ways to stay in the trade days, weeks, even months if you'd like. It only uses one indicator. That's the 50-period simple moving average, okay? That's it. It's based on this pattern that we talked about. Here's an example here in MAR, Marriott, all right? Here's the beauty of strategy number 4, whereas most traders would look at this and say, well, Steve, it's a sideways market, absolutely nothing is happening, so I'm going to avoid this and kind of wait till there's a breakout either to the upside or the downside. Strategy number 4, remember, is designed to identify momentum before anyone else can. So as you see right here, while you were in the so-called sideways market, strategy 4 was identifying momentum to the upside and generated a buy signal. As you can see, the stock quickly shot up 28 points after that, where no one else could see that coming. It works to the downside as well. Most traders would say, well, Steve, this is a range market. You want to avoid these markets. You know, it gets up to the top of the range, you buy and it goes back down, you sell and it goes back up. But strategy number 4 is designed to identify momentum before anyone else can. And it actually identified a sell signal right here in the middle of that range before the stock fell out of bed 26 points. Okay. Now here's another example, MORF. Once again, a directionless market, right? Absolutely going nowhere, just sideways. But a buy signal was generated right here before the stock shot up 57 points in 1 day. All right, so that's threat number 1. Let's move on to threat number 2. This actually is another strategy, but based on completely different requirements, completely different set of rules. And this is strategy number 5, okay? You've heard me talk about this before, also in other presentations. Strategy number 5 is completely different from strategy number 4 in the fact that it's a non-traditional candlestick method for all candlestick patterns. Now, it's mainly for continuation traders. So what does that mean? Well, a continuation trader is one that has identified a trend already established. And most people will say, well, the trend's already in place. I kind of missed this, right? It's already gone up too high or gone down too low. But a continuation method will generate signals within that trend, even when you think it's gone up too high or gone down too low. It only uses one indicator once again, and that is the 50-period simple moving average. Why? Because it's relying on these candlestick patterns, but in a non-traditional way. For example, as we look at this chart here in JBHT, obviously the trend is up. But you may say to yourself, you know, it's a little bit too high. It's gone up too quickly, so maybe I'll sell. But strategy number 5 generated a buy signal right here towards the high of that run and still was able to squeeze out 15 more points, okay? And it generated signals along the way while it was still going higher. Now, this can also work to the downside. As we look at this chart in CHKP, obviously it's in a downtrend, but look what happened. It went down a little bit too quickly, and maybe that chat room you go to says there's major support here, so you don't want to sell. It's making some type of a bottom. This is actually where you want to think about buying, right? Well, wrong, according to strategy number 5, because strategy number 5 is saying that there's still some more momentum to the downside, and you should actually sell. So it generated 2 sell signals right where you thought there was support, and you still could have potentially captured upwards of 9 points. You can also apply this, as we see, to a very strong uptrend. Once again, most traders would say, well, I don't want to buy this. It's gone up too much, but strategy number 5 generated a buy signal, and you still could have potentially captured 50 points. Now, we all know that losses are inevitable. If someone tells you that their strategy or their technique never loses, you should run, because I've been trading for 45 years, and even the best traders I know of still lose from time to time. There's nothing wrong with losses. So losses are inevitable with strategy number 4 and with strategy number 5. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they will produce nothing but winners the way some other webinars do. For example, here's a buy signal in Tesla, an older example in Tesla. And look what happened. Didn't work out, right? Went straight down after the buy signal was generated. Or here was a sell signal, strategy number 4, sell signal in Best Buy, okay? It's gone up, looks like it's reversing, and look what happened. It went up higher. So we all know that losses are inevitable, but there is still a way to filter many of them out. And this brings us to the third threat, which is another fantastic technique or method I learned on the floor of the exchange, and that's the PET-D. Now, if you're not familiar with what the PET-D is, let me explain to you some of the highlights of this particular tool. It's a proprietary algorithm, all right, proprietary algorithm, because this is a tool I learned and used on the floor some 4 decades ago. But that time, 4 decades ago, it was something called the formula. We had to calculate it by hand, and it was so cumbersome. By the time you had the calculation for that bar, it was time to start calculating the next one. So you can never really trade. So we've developed it into a proprietary color bar tool. With the help of high-speed computers and with programmers, we've made it simple. We've taken all of the hard work out of it for you. And basically, it just colors the bars either green for an uptrend or red for a downtrend. It's that simple. So you can use it as a short-term trend identifier. You just look at the color of the bars. Let's look at this older example in Aetna, all right? Once again, most traders would look at this and say, hey, we're in an uptrend, Steve. By the time you figure that out, most likely it's up here and you say it's time to buy. And just when you step in and buy, this happens, right? Look familiar? Well, what if we applied the PET-D? Well, on our platform, it's as simple as just clicking on PET-D right here in our green strategy tab, and you can see the colors automatically change. Now, remember, the PET-D is not a predictive tool. It doesn't tell you what the top or bottom of the market's going to be. It's just highly sensitive, and it's just translating basically on a tick-by-tick basis what the market you're looking at wants to do. So we knew right here when we had a confluence of green bars that it wanted to go higher. And we knew right here when we had a confluence of red bars that it wanted to go lower. Much better than any other trending tool I've ever used in my 45 years of trading. So how are we going to apply it as the third threat? Well, we're going to use it as a signal confirmation tool. In other words, we're going to filter out those signals that are not of the highest probability, and we're going to keep the ones that are high probability. Let me show you how that works here. All right, let's say you get a buy signal in any one of those strategies, okay? So we're only going to trade strategy number 4 and 5 buy signal bars that are colored green. In other words, when these strategies generate a buy signal, you'll have a green up arrow. The bar directly above that green arrow also has to be colored green to be valid. Now, let's say we want to sell with strategy number 4 or 5. We're only going to trade strategy number 4 or 5 signal bars that are colored red. Okay, so if we get a sell signal, you'll see a red arrow above that bar. The bar directly below it needs to be colored or outlined red in order for us to take the trade. All right, now we have a high probability triple threat trade. So let's look at these examples again. Remember we had that buy signal in Tesla and it went straight down? Well, what would have happened if we added the third component of the triple threat, the PET-D? Remember, the PET-D is only used to confirm whether we should take the signal. So if we apply it, click on our platform, PET-D, and in order to buy this, this bar needs to be colored or outlined green. What color is it? It's red. So therefore, we would not have taken the trade and we would not have had a losing setup or signal. See how powerful that is? Let's look at the other example in Best Buy, excuse me, BBY. All right, as you can see here, we have a sell signal. The bar is red. In order to take this, we have to see that this bar is colored red. So let's apply the PET-D once again. And what color is the bar below the arrow? It's green. So therefore, we're not going to take that trade, and we would have not lost any money. See how powerful this is, but how simple it is to apply. Now, when we combine all 3 of these methods together, strategy 4, strategy 5, along with the PET-D, we get what we call my triple threat of trading, because you have this synergy for consistency, for success in trading. You have 2 powerful, consistent methods along with a signal confirmation tool, a filter in the PET-D. So let's show you some recent examples to show you how powerful this is and how you could have been using this past month, okay? Remember, everything you're going to be seeing is displayed from the PTS Primo charting platform. This is the platform I developed with Pro Trader Strategies, my sister site, that actually teaches you how to trade with a triple threat. It makes it extremely simple. Okay, let's look at this example in CRSP, okay? Once again, no real clear-cut direction, right? Kind of going down, then kind of looks like it may bounce, but there's real no direction here. But if we apply strategy number 4, we see there's a buy signal, all right? Now, normally, if you're just trading the strategy by itself, you would take it. But remember, we want to take this up a level. We want to increase our odds for consistency. So we apply the PET-D to confirm it. Now, in order for us to take that, the bar above that arrow needs to be colored or outlined green. So we apply it, and what is the color of the bar? It is green. Now remember, a lot of students would say, well, Steve, yeah, but the bars before it were red. Makes no difference. We're only concerned with the bar above the arrow. So this is a valid triple threat signal, a high probability setup that you could have taken just 3 weeks ago and potentially captured 15 points in just 3 days, okay? Now let's look at ASML. Once again, we're in an uptrend, right? In fact, this is a classic uptrend. Higher highs, higher lows. Most traders looking at this would say, hey, Steve, you know, that guy in that chat room said to buy this. We're going to be really going much higher. The earnings are going to be good. All the institutions like this, and it's in a clear-cut uptrend. So I've got to be a buyer too, right? Well, let's see what our strategies say. Strategy 4 says it's a sell signal. Remember, strategy 4 is designed to find momentum before anyone else can. And it's identifying momentum to the downside, right here at the very top of that little bounce. Now, you could take it, but we want to increase our odds for consistency, so let's apply the PET-D. Guess what? It's confirmed. Remember, we do not want to take that if the bar below is colored green. But what color is it? It's red. So that is a valid, high probability triple threat setup. So you could have taken that and in the next week potentially captured 65 points. Now, in the courses, we teach you exactly where to enter. We teach you exactly where to exit and where to place your stop. In fact, we have upwards of 6 or 7 different categories for each one of them. So you can have 6 or 7 choices of stop placements, 6 or 7 exit points. It's up to you. Remember, you're in charge. That's our goal, to provide you with information, but you have to ultimately decide where you want to enter, where you want to exit. So that's why we say potentially you could have made 65 points. Some traders use a very conservative exit, and they say, God, this is a great trade. In one day, I made 10 points. I'm getting out. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Other traders may say, I'm going to go see this, if I can get as much bang for my buck, I'm going to hold out for 70 points. That's fine. As long as you are sticking to what makes you feel comfortable. That's what will make you a consistent trader. And remember, if you miss that trade, the beauty of it is that many times more signals will be developed within the trend. Let's look at Moderna, okay? Now, here's a strategy number 4, sell signal, okay? Now, if you had just taken this without the triple threat, well, you had a loss on your hands, okay? Now, right there on the very last bar, what do we have? We have a double arrow, and that means strategy 4 along with strategy 5 both generated buy signals. But you say to yourself, well, I'm not going to take this signal because look at the first one didn't work out, so how do I know the second one's going to work out? This is the value of having the triple threat, because even though we know some trades won't work out all the time, the triple threat will filter out a good portion of those bad setups. For example, if we applied the PET-D, we would have seen that this sell signal was not confirmed. Why? Because in order for us to take this, it would have had to have been colored red. And it was colored green, so we never would have taken it, and we never would have had a loss. Now, on this double buy signal of strategy 4 and 5, we need this to be colored or outlined green, and it is. So this is a valid triple threat setup, and as you can see, you would have taken that one and potentially captured 30 points in less than a week. So once again, you see how valuable it is having the triple threat. It would have kept you out of that first bad setup and kept you in the second one, which was good. Let's look at SGEN, okay? Once again, we have a buy signal right here. Someone would say, well, Steve, it's going lower. I'm not sure if I want to buy that. Well, this is the beauty of the triple threat. You can confirm it. And as you can see, it is confirmed. Not only is this bar green, but all the bars are green. So this is a valid triple threat high probability setup, 35 points in 4 days, okay? You see the consistency by applying the triple threat method. Let's look at CHTR. This is an older example, but I wanted to share with you to show you exactly why most traders fail. They'll look at this and say, hey, we're in a sideways market. The market's not telling me anything. It's just going sideways. And every time I buy, it goes lower. Every time I sell, it goes back up. So this is a whipsaw sideways market. I don't want to do anything here, okay? This is why most traders fail, because they really don't know how to identify what the market's doing. But if we apply one of our two strategies, we see that it was actually identifying momentum to the downside. Where everyone else thought it was a sideways directionless market, it's saying, well, sure, we may be going sideways now, but I am picking up some high probability signs of it wanting to go lower. Now, this isn't enough, though. We need to confirm it if we're trading with the triple threat. And once we applied the PET-D, we see that every bar below the arrow was colored red. So you had 3 chances to go short CHTR before it fell out of bed, 140 points. Now, you notice here, I didn't mention anything about earnings. I didn't mention anything about economic indicators. I didn't mention anything about support and resistance. I didn't mention anything about overbought, oversold. Didn't mention anything about what's going on economically, because there's no need to. The market tells you just about everything you need to know. All of these strategies, all of these techniques, the PET-D included, are based on market behavior. Now, when I first started trading 45 years ago, I was taught most likely the same things you're taught, right? I have to look at the earnings, have to see what the economic indicators are doing, have to look at the jobless claims, I have to see what the overall trend is. And guess what? I couldn't make a dime. In fact, my first 2 years on the floor of the exchange, I thought we were going to be my last, because I just wasn't progressing. It wasn't until my mentors taught me the same things I'm teaching you that my trading turned around. I started to become consistent. So this is what my goal is, to teach you these things and to show you how simple trading can be when you strip away what my mentors called useless noise, all the things we've been taught that really don't have a high level of consistency. Once again, 80% of all traders fail, and we're usually in the first year, and we're all taught the same thing in the first year, right? How to trade the markets, what they're based off, the earnings, fundamental news. And if these things really work, why do most traders fail? Well, obviously, it's because they don't work. Once you learn how to strip them away and simplify your trading, that's when you can become consistent. And that's what we're trying to teach you. Now, here's an example in Amazon, okay? This is an older example. Once again, a buy signal was generated, strategy number 5 buy signal. And for the first 3 days, you've got a nice profit. So you're feeling good about yourself, right? But remember, you have to confirm it if you're a triple threat student. And so we have to apply the PET-D, because even though it looks good, we're not sure if it's going to sustain that. So this buy signal needs to be, or the bar above the buy signal needs to be colored or outlined green. So let's apply the PET-D, okay? Because obviously it did not work. Once we apply the PET-D, we see that it was outlined red. So even though you had a couple of good days here, maybe one good day, you would not have taken that trade and therefore not have suffered a large loss. Now, a lot of traders say, well, Steve, this is all fine, but what about news? I seem to be always on the wrong side of the news. Well, remember, there are no guarantees in trading. This is not guaranteed to win and have a successful trade 100% of the time, but we're really increasing your odds for consistency. And that's what it's all about. It's all about putting the odds in your favor, even with news. I know a lot of traders say, well, Steve, news can come out and you can get killed, right? Well, let's see what happened just about 3 months ago. This was in Netflix in April, middle of April. Netflix loses subscribers for the first time in 10 years, Yahoo Finance reported. And I'm sure you all have all seen the news now. It's all old news now, but Netflix on that particular day in April dropped 22% after it reported a net loss of 200,000 subscribers for its first quarter. Bad news, right? So if we look at the chart, here's when the news came out, all right? And if you were long, well, look what happened the next day and following into the next day into May and June. Obviously, bad news. Obviously, if you were long, you would have lost a lot of money, even if you had calls or just a small all out in your long-term portfolio. Let me show you how these techniques can help you, though, even prior to that news announcement. Because if we had just simply applied the PET-D, we would have known well in advance that the bars were red. And that, once again, if the bars are red, the PET-D is translating that the stock wants to go lower. It's in a short-term downtrend. So you don't want to be in something when it's going lower, right? You don't want to be buying when it's going lower. You don't want to be holding a long position if the stock itself is translating, I want to go lower, right? You either want to be on the sidelines or you want to be a more aggressive trader looking to go short. Now, if you're the latter, well, here's the good news. Strategy number 5 generated a sell signal 2 days before that news came out. Now, how did we know? Did the CEO of Netflix call me up and say, hey, Steve, I know you've got a nice little company there where you teach traders how to trade. I just want to give you some insider information. We're going to announce some terrible news in 2 days. And so you may want to generate a sell signal. No, we don't base anything off of fundamental news. So how did we know to go short? Because our translator, the PET-D, along with the strategy, which are all based on market behavior, already identified that the market wanted to go lower and this was a good place to sell. You see, trading is simple when you get out of your own way. Learn to listen to the market, and that's when you become consistent. Remember, I based all of my trading for my first 2 years on news and on fundamental events and on earnings. And guess what? It didn't work for me 45 years ago. So I don't think it's about to miraculously turn around and start working now. Okay. Plus, this is a lot simpler than trying to discern if it's good or bad news, or if that's a good earnings, or if that's a good economic number or not. Potentially, you could have captured upwards of 175 points with that sell signal. Okay, so let's recap what we taught you here today. The triple threat recap. Basically, threat number 1 is strategy number 4. This was the first strategy my mentors taught me, and I continue to use to this day. I was trading it this morning in the E-mini futures, so you can apply it to any market, any time frame. It's based on a pattern that repeats itself over and over again in any market and in any time frame. A very consistent method. And then we take it up a notch by giving you threat number 2, which is strategy number 5, a completely different method based on entirely different parameters. It's a non-traditional candlestick method. And this, once again, is taking you up a notch because it can discern when you're already in a trend and generate signals along the trend. But in order to really take you up to the highest levels of consistency, we need to filter out the good from the bad setups. And that's where we apply threat number 3, which is the PET-D. This is one of the most powerful as well as popular tools we have at Specialist Trading because of its simplicity. It's just a color bar algorithm, and it just basically turns the bars from green to red. Green for an uptrend, short-term uptrend, red for a short-term downtrend. In this capacity, we're using it as a filter to filter out the good from the bad trades. You put them all together, and you have my triple threat of trading. 3 of the best that we have here at Specialist Trading that can really take your trading to the next level. Now ask yourself, with the examples I shared with you that just happened within the last month or so, do you think these 3 methods could have helped your trading this past year? Think of it, we're halfway through 2022. If you're like most traders, you're nowhere near where you thought you were going to be at the beginning of the year, right? You thought you'd have your plan together and your trading method, that $10,000 system that you purchased would be making you millions by now, right? You'd be ready to retire or go on that dream vacation. And most likely, you still haven't gotten any further. Probably you're losing money, all right? That's okay. I know exactly what that's like. I was there and I've been there before. Once again, I told you when I first started trading, I didn't make any money for the first 2 years. So I know what that's like. It's very depressing and very frustrating because you're using a lot of your hard-earned money and it's just going out the window. Well, here's a great offer we have for all of you taking the time out of your day today to watch this presentation. We're going to offer you our triple threat special. This is strategy number 4, strategy number 5, as well as the PET-D tool. You're going to get instant course access, detailed instruction, and you're going to get the entire course rules because we haven't talked about entries, we haven't talked about exits or stop placements. That's all in the course. In fact, each one of these categories, you're going to have upwards of 6 or 7 different ways to either enter, exit, or place your stop. We're also going to teach you a conservative as well as aggressive version of each one of these strategies. along with that, with the PET-D, you're going to get 4 separate trading techniques. These are entirely different from what we shared with you today. They're only based on the PET-D, okay? So this is really, really a great offer. Now, everything you've seen today has been detailed and displayed on our platform, okay? So here we have an extra bonus for you today. We want to throw in a full year of the PTS Primo charts. That's normally going to cost you close to $1,800, but we're going to give you a great discount just for showing up today. We're not going to charge you $1,800. In fact, we're not going to charge you anything. We're going to throw in a full year of the platform. This is the platform I developed with Pro Trader Strategies to make trading simple. Now, here's the good news. You're just not going to get the PET-D Strategy 4 and Strategy 5 on the platform. You're going to get a host of other tools and techniques and indicators that I've accumulated in my 45 years. Things like a strength of trend tool, auto-generated exit levels. But here's what I think is the best thing on our platform, worth its weight in gold. Here's the strategy signal scanner, because you can scan for triple threat setups on a nightly basis. You don't have to go be looking through hundreds, if not thousands of markets on a nightly basis just to find a setup the way I had to some 4 decades ago. With a click on the charts, on the PTS Primo charts, you can find out in a matter of minutes what the setups are for the next day. And here's the good news. You can scan other markets. You'll have access to data for futures, for currency pairs, even for Bitcoin. For example, here's some older charts of other markets you could have scanned for using the triple threat. Here's a 4-hour chart of the Swiss franc, okay? Signals that were verified by the PET-D, and see how you could have made money there. Here's a 10-minute chart of the E-mini futures, signals that were confirmed by the PET-D, and you see you could have potentially made 20 points. And then here's another currency pair example in the British pound, okay? So it makes no difference. You can be trading commodities, futures, Bitcoin, intraday trading. You can scan for all of these markets on our platform. All right, so let's break down the triple threat. Now you're going to get strategy number 4. Now pay no attention to that graphic because it says stock strategy. But remember, I just used it this morning with the E-mini, so it makes no difference. The reason why it says that is because when we first started teaching you this method, it was basically just applied for stocks. But we see now that it can be applied to all markets. It makes no difference. So strategy number 4 can be applied to any market, any time frame, and usually costs upwards of $700. Now, Candlestick Strategy number 5 can be applied to any market, any time frame. That also usually costs close to $700. Now, the PET-D, because of its many uses and many applications, and because of its power, is the most expensive. This costs close to $5,000, okay? Now, altogether, we're talking about just the individual trading courses, if you purchase them, be close to $6,400. And that's not even including the platform. Once we throw the platform in, well, now we're talking over $7,500. Now, I know a lot of webinars you've gone to in the past will charge exuberant prices like this. We're not going to do that. We appreciate you taking the time to hear this webinar. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to not charge you at all, once again, for the platform or for strategy 4 or strategy 5. We're only going to charge you for the PET-D, okay? Only $49.95. You're going to save over $2,500. And we're going to throw in an extra bonus as well. For a limited time only, we're going to throw in payment plans, okay? So this means that if you still can't come up with $49.95, don't worry. For a small deposit, you can still be up and running as early as today. You just establish a payment plan, put down a small deposit, and you can still be a member of the Triple Threat course. That's how easy we make it for you, okay? So obviously, if you just want to pay in full, it's $49.95. If you want to establish a payment plan, well, that's the good way to go because it'll be a lot cheaper. Just put down a small deposit. You can be up and running today and establish a payment plan with my sister site, Pro Trader Strategies. Now, if you're still not convinced, let me share with something that happened just a few weeks ago. Remember when the market was falling out of bed? Well, a strategy number 4 sell signal was generated on the 11th of July. This was just a couple of weeks ago, all right? Not even a couple of weeks, less than a couple of weeks. Now, if you wanted to use it as a triple threat, you apply the PET-D and you see that, well, the bar below was colored red. So this was a valid signal to go short. Now remember, this is in the spiders. This is the ETF that represents the S&P 500. You could have used this signal that you could have scanned for and seen on the 11th that the market looks like it's going lower. So maybe if you were thinking about buying something, or maybe that guy in that chat room says, you got to buy the market, it's going to go straight up. Maybe this would have given you a little bit of pause because Look what happened in the next 3 days. That was 11 points. Now, I know 11 points doesn't seem like a lot, but that was close to 1,000 points in the Dow in just a couple of days. So this is how valuable this is. I know I go to a lot of webinars myself, and I'll watch speakers talk and show these fantastic signals. And then you look at the date, and it was like a year or two ago, right? Well, this just happened less than 2 weeks ago, and they're happening all the time. Are you going to wait another year to become a consistent trader? Take charge of your trading, okay? Take charge of your trading destiny. Become a student of mine in the Triple Threat course. Here's how to take advantage of that great offer. Once again, contact Pro Trader Strategies. They're my sister site, and they're in charge of all the discounts as well as the tech support. They can establish a payment plan for you, or they can just give you a quote over the phone. There's absolutely no obligation. I would highly recommend giving them a call at area code 310-598-6677. They have trading consultants on the phones right now. They'd be happy to take your order, or they'd be happy just to give you a quote or answer any question concerning pricing that you'd like. Remember, there's absolutely no obligation. They're very flexible, and they're there to work with you, okay? So don't feel uncomfortable if you want to call with a question. Now, that link you see at the very bottom is the link that will take you to the info as well as the sign-up page. Now, you can copy and paste that onto your browser, or you can go to the chat box where we've just posted the live link, and you can just click it on from there, okay? Now, I promised you I would answer questions at the very end of today's presentation, which we are at the end. So if you do have a question, kindly go to your chat box. Now, I'm not sure if the chat box is working. I just got a note from our tech support that it may not be working. So you can either try it there or go to question and answers, okay? There's a Q&A question there, and type in the question there, okay? I see someone is asking, how do we stay in touch if we're having a problem? Well, there's two ways. Once you become a student of mine, you get my personal email address. So you can always contact me whenever you'd like. Say you're learning about strategy 4 and you don't quite understand the rules or the pattern that you're looking for. You can always email me with examples. You can send me chart examples, and I will answer the question as soon as possible. Now, let's say it's a tech support question, or let's say it's a video that you didn't get that's part of the course. Okay, well, then you'd contact your trading consultant at Pro Trader Strategies. You have that email for that as well. So there's lots of ways to get in contact with us. We're always going to be there with you. The one thing I can mention is that if you send me a question, which is concerning trading or teaching, remember, it comes directly to me. It will not go to an intern. It doesn't go to my assistant. It comes directly to me. It's my private and personal email address. So don't feel as if, it'll take you 2 to 3 weeks to get answered. It usually takes a day or two, and I'll answer it. Sometimes in the next 15 minutes if I'm not so busy, okay? So there's lots of ways to do that. Someone's asking, can this be applied intraday? Yes, it can. I showed you, I believe, an example of a 10-minute E-mini futures chart where it worked well. If you'd like to trade stocks, on a 10 or 15-minute chart, sure, it works fantastic. You'll get the same signals generated, and it works on the same process. That's the beauty of these methods in the triple threat, is that you don't have to change anything because we're changing markets or time frames. So if you trade weekly bars of crypto, but you trade a 5-minute Apple chart, makes no difference. The same rules, the same process applies, okay? That's the beauty of the triple threat. So you're basically getting about one method that you can use for any market or any time frame. I know a lot of other so-called teachers sell you a different method for each market. We don't do that. Most of our methods can be applied to all markets and all time frames. All right. Any more questions since you have me here? Remember, contact Pro Trader Strategies. There's absolutely no obligation. They'd be happy to work with you. They'd be happy. They're very flexible. Once again, they'd be happy to establish a payment plan. You can think about it. Someone's asking, how long does this offer last? Usually the offers only last about a week, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to be getting this video, and you can watch it at your own leisure, and I recommend that you do to get a good idea of how the triple threat works and can be applied. But if you're really serious about taking your trading to the next level and you want to be a student of mine in the triple threat course, don't sit on it. So many students will wait a couple of weeks, a month, and they'll say, gosh, I've lost so much money. I should have taken that course. Let me contact Pro Trader Strategies and see if they still have that deal. And most likely we won't. It'll be back up to over $7,500. So take advantage of this if you're serious, okay? It's only going to be for a good, I believe, possibly up until this Saturday, and then we move on to the next one, which we'll be speaking about next week. Okay. Okay, if there are no further questions, I just want to say thank you so much for attending. Remember, there's absolutely no obligation. Give Pro Trader Strategies a call if you're interested. As we take one last look at our disclaimer, I just want to thank you for taking time out of your Thursday morning. I really appreciate it. I hope you learned something. And most especially, I look forward to all of you becoming students of mine in the Triple Threat course. Thank you so much. Have a great day. I wish you all the best of luck in trading. Bye-bye.